Has India scored a masterstroke against Trump's America by joining in a very visible, deliberate, and self assertive manner the alternate center of geopolitical and economic power that's being deliberately cobbled together by Xi Jinping, the Chinese leader? Obviously, attempts are being made to play up and create a hype about the tremendous achievement of our Prime Minister in attending this recently concluded exercise. Um, and portraying the whole situation as though this is bound to create nervousness in Washington. What do I think about it? I'm going to be very direct and forthright in this video as usual. The first thing I want to say is that it is all right to try and massage a situation, create a hype about it, and sell it in the domestic market. But the fact of the matter is that ultimately it is truth and truth alone that prevails. After all, that's the motto of India, and that's also the universal truth. Propaganda can take us only a very short distance, and that too in a very illusory or delusory kind of way. Propaganda cannot deliver the goods, it is not a substitute for real development or achievement. It may succeed for a while to create a fleeting feel good factor, but the future of a nation cannot be built on the smoke screen of propaganda. So it is truth and truth alone that we need to pursue. So, the truth of the matter, as far as this particular situation is concerned, if you remember, I shared with you a video immediately after Donald Trump became the President of the United States and declared that his policy would be America first. I said at that time that given this to be the American dramatic shift in American foreign policy vision, the time has come for India to reconsider its relationship with its neighboring countries, particularly China, and China also means Pakistan. It is not to our even short term benefit to maintain or sustain enmity in our neighborhood. And when America, whose goodwill we have been trying to cultivate, particularly in the last 25 years, declares its policy to be driven entirely by brutal self interest, which has been the case for a long time. It's only now that it is stated with naked aggression by Trump. It stands to reason to think that our interests are not safe in the American basket. Therefore, we have to look elsewhere. And the only other alternative to America is China as of now. Russia itself is playing second fiddle to China. So, India turning towards China is a historical necessity and it makes practical sense. And what I said at that time has now come true. Not that I'm claiming to be a political prophet or I have the skill to read the political crystal ball, nothing of the sort. It is simple common sense, and things are happening in that manner. But what I have to now say is something that goes beyond what I have said before. Namely, it is not enough that we turn towards China and Russia or the whole family of nations that have now come together under the umbrella of Shanghai Cooperation. The real battle must be fought and won at home. Unfortunately, a vast majority of Indians do not understand the significance of this. And I'm not blaming anyone because propaganda has so befuddled our brains that we cannot any longer think straight. The problem with India It's not China, it is not Pakistan, it is not America. The problem with India is India itself, each one of us. I'm not blaming anyone in particular. Uh, the, the most important problem that we have to address is our internal weakness. And that internal weakness is on account of our negativity, all round negativity. First of all, our negativity to work. Our worldview for centuries has been such that those who work the hardest in this country are despised, looked down upon, and considered not even second class citizens, considered less than human beings. And that's the problem with the caste system. So there has to be a courageous re examination of the mentality embedded in the caste system, which looks down upon work as something menial. And therefore, decent people, people who ascribe some value to themselves, should not work. They should become parasites. They live like parasites. It's because of this negative culture that the native Indian genius does not blossom in India. Indians, when they get an opportunity to go settle down or work elsewhere, they produce outstanding results, as is evident from the role that many Indians are playing in the prosperity and development of America. It is now a widely recognized fact that the Indian genius is contributing immensely to the tremendous progress, the economic progress, and the economic power of America. Donald Trump, of course, is too illiterate to understand these things, and therefore he might think that, by uh, um, rubbing our nose in the mud, he would do America a service. Now, let's now ask ourselves this question. Why is it that Trump, despite the fact that he recognizes China to be his number one problem, treats China far better than treats India, and India has been endeavoring to be a friend of America? Why is it? It's because in international perception, and this is not a problem confined to Trump alone, in international perception, India is a country that is not doing justice to itself. India is a country that's wasting its human resources, either by default, in the sense not enough is being done to capitalize on the tremendous um, the manpower we have, the demographic dividend, as we are very happy to name it. Particularly, India is a young country with tremendous energy, tremendous potential, a country of genius, actually. We have not been able to make use of even 10% of our potential. We can't blame it on any other country. We have to understand that this is a natural and unfortunate consequence of our worldview, our attitude to life, our attitude to each other, our attitude to work, our overall sense of life. This has to change. Indians must learn to take pride in their willingness to work, their efficiency at work, and their commitment to excellence at work. This must become the national mantra. Excellence at work must become our national mantra. But the problem is, you cannot create this kind of positive and energetic national work culture if the national psychology itself is maintained at a very negative level or is poisoned with hate and negativity. Unfortunately, in the last 10 years, but then even before that, the national psyche, so the mind of India, has been injected with poison to an alarming extent. Does someone have to come and tell us that hate is a negative sentiment? That negative sentiments can only serve to paralyze our potentialities and possibilities, corrupt and cripple our energy, and it will cause our national spirit to wilt and wither? How can you inject poison into the veins of India and expect India to have a positive outlook on work, on national development, on national pride? This is tantamount to madness. That in the name of patriotism, an entire country is infected with a mentality of negativity, brutal negativity. The time has come for India to realize that all Indians must belong together and that we must create a culture within which national unity becomes real and vibrant, and that every Indian has a role to play in making India a vibrant place. If all the energies of the 140 Indians that we are can be channeled together without dissipating it along avenues of negativity and hate, India will become the number one country in the world. We can outstrip America and China. This is my ardent faith. But we are our own enemies. We don't need enemies from across the border to come and do any harm to us. We are experts in harming ourselves, and we are doing it in a very systematic, efficient, brutal manner. This has to stop. Please understand the very important historical insight that Immanuel Kant provided more than 200 years ago. He stated very clearly, emphatically, that a country which is divided within itself, a country wherein law and order is a chronic problem, a country where the attitude of the people is negative towards each other, a country, in other words, that does not do justice to itself will not be respected by other countries. And in fact, the way other countries will evaluate you, respect you, or disrespect you will depend entirely on you. If, in the words of Abraham Lincoln, India is a house divided within itself, how long can it stand? So, it is not Trump's mercy or goodwill that we need. It is not Xi Jinping's goodwill or mercy that we need. It is not the muscle of Russia, or Putin's muscle that we need. What we need is true patriotism, creative, constructive patriotism, wherein every Indian recognizes his and her responsibility to build this nation to its full potential. Now, here, I want to add a particular word of advice to the religious minorities, because all my life I've lived and worked and fought to protect the rights of religious minorities. I am today convinced absolutely that remaining fixated on minority rights is a very unhealthy thing. Please understand that minority rights issue from a constitution which is a liberal democratic constitutional which envisages a liberal democratic constitutional republic, where the total collectivity called India is the uppermost supreme value, and the right of no constituent group or community can override the interest of the nation. So, if religious minorities think that they can relate to the national mainstream only in terms of what is good for themselves, to the neglect of what is in the best interest of the country, they will cut the branch on which they are sitting. It is a national imperative that every community, every society, every citizen in India develop, acquire, and maintain the sameness of spirit, which is the secret of national unity. And only within a climate of national unity will the total energy and genius of a people find full utterance. It is this that India needs at the present time. It is no longer a luxury, it's an indispensable necessity. So, two things have to happen. One, those who are responsible for governance at the center, the BJP-led NDA government, particularly the BJP leaders and the ideologues of the Sangh Parivar. I say this with full respect to all of them. You have a sacred duty, and that is to create a climate of belonging together in India, a climate within which every Indian feels encouraged and inspired to contribute his or her almighty best. Even the slightest touch of alienation will weaken and cripple India. You have spread alienation and negativity on a very large scale. This has done far greater harm to India than all other nations put together, whether it is Pakistan, China, America, or what have you. No other country in the world, or all the countries put together in the world, cannot do as much harm to India, her potentialities and possibilities, the blossoming of her genius, as this attitude has done. And unfortunately, there is no sign that we are learning anything from this. We are singularly responsible for the state in which we find ourselves. We cannot really shut our doors against China because 70%, 80% of our industrial supply chain items come from China. We cannot actually saber rattle against America. In fact, we are going to face serious challenges in the immediate future. In fact, it has already started on account of the antagonism, the avoidable antagonism between India and America. In this, I blame Donald Trump's America, not Narendra Modi and India. Trump is entirely responsible for his antagonism. It's unfortunate. He misread India, the spirit of India, which is understandable because that's the level of comprehension of this man. It's a tragedy for the entire globe that such a fellow is the supreme leader of a great nation like America. But that's the reality today. There is hostility. And if you look at the history of America, the moment America turns hostile to a country, they'll go out of their way to try and cripple that nation in whichever way they can. So, very hard days are ahead for all Indians. And there is no point in hiding our head in the sand. Days ahead are going to be very, very challenging, very difficult. And in order to face the challenges ahead, it's absolutely essential that we marshal all our resources, all our energies, all our skills and talents together and create an unprecedented sense of national excitement, motivation, morale, strength, excitement about building India to make her equal to the challenges that are going to unfold and indeed have already unfolded. So, my thesis is the battle will be and must be won at home. And to make that possible, it is necessary that there is a tremendous attitudinal change. Our worldview has to change. Our social psychology has to change. Our political culture has to change. Above all, our work culture has to change. And our understanding of what it takes to promote national unity has to change. India cannot stand and fight the many challenges that are evolving one after the other in quick succession, so long as we remain internally weak and divided. This is the time to dig deep into our energies and to create a national culture which will be the envy of the nations around. And whether or not Prime Minister Modi and his associates understand this historical imperative right will decide the future of BJP, the future of NDA, the future of India. If the present situation, mark my words, and I prophesy, mark my words, if the present situation is not handled wisely, the total Indian scenario will spin out of control in a very, very disastrous manner. And the leaders who are responsible for it will have much to answer for. So, India is at the crossroads, the BJP is at the crossroads, NDA is at the crossroads. And unfortunately, the recent controversy about vote chori, the theft of vote, and the most unfortunate, embarrassing way in which the Election Commission of India has conducted itself, particularly in the most stupid way of defending the malpractices that now stand proved in public perception. After all, Rahul Gandhi was not talking in the air, he was producing solid evidence. So rather than address these issues and regain the lost credibility of the commission, trying to intimidate people who cry for integrity and transparency in the democratic process, trying to fool the Indian public by diverting the issues this way and that, and above all, insulting the intelligence of Indians by offering lame excuses and stupid self defense. This is not becoming of an august constitutional body like the Election Commission of India. So, this the weakness of Indian democracy has to be addressed. The weakness of our national culture has to be addressed. The weakness of our political culture, which is built on hate, divisiveness, and negativity, has to be addressed. And no tom-tomming of patriotism and patriotic jargon can be a substitute for this imperative national task. We are on the brink of disaster. We are on the brink of disaster. And love for the country means that we forget all other considerations, come together, and accept this as our most sacred duty to pull this country back from the brink of disaster and disarray. I hope and pray that this happens. I hope and pray that the leaders of India are imbued with this wisdom to handle the present situation aright. And they are also imbued with a sense of urgency to get a handle on the situation before it gets too late. Satyameva Jayate, Nanardam.